Hello, lads, lovelies, and everyone in between. Alright, here's part one, the Valve Index, which is really, in my opinion, the gold standard PCVR headset. Here it is, right? The beautiful Valve Index. This one you can see is slightly modified. I have a QB design USB radiator on it. An add-on I highly recommend for this. Not that this is a particularly hot headset to wear, but all VR headsets are kind of hot to wear. And this actually helps more than you'd think. This is a nice little unit. It's not that expensive. Just goes right in the trunk. But that's really a separate thing, right? This is a pretty big headset. It's big. And it's heavy. It's fucking heavy. It is 809 grams or 1.8 pounds. That's a fucking lot. This is a heavy headset. It is, however, very comfortable. The facial interface is very good. It's very good. It's soft. It's comfortable. The lenses, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about all the shit that they got wrong. Because there's a lot they did, actually. As a good first effort, pretty solid. Because you have to remember, this is, in VR years, ancient. This is an ancient headset. It's old. Yeah, this came out in 2019, my dudes. That's so old. A lot's changed. VR moves fast. But they still got enough right that to this day, these things are still selling to the point that Valve can barely keep up with sales. Considering its fairly high price tag, that says a lot. In Canadian, this cost me something like $1,478. That's a lot. That's of course including like the taxes and the shipping and so on, but that's a factor. This is an expensive headset. And the reason why it's expensive is you're not just buying the headset and you're off to the races. Nope. You are buying base stations as well. I'm pointing at them, but you can't see it. Just trust me, they're there. Ew, that's just a lot of money. But you get a lot for that, though. That's not to say that they really got everything right. There's a lot of warts on this unit. Not just the weight. The weight's actually really not that bad because it's well-balanced, comfortable headset. Lots of cushioning. You can have a gigantic fucking melon. You'll be able to put this on. I have a fairly large head, I think. And I still have to use the small head adapter. I do not have a small head. No one's ever said that about me. Except Gabe Newell. He said I have a tiny fucking head. Thanks, Gabe. Yeah. It's not true, though. Probably compared to his fucking head, it's small, though. Yeah. Anyway. So, great things that they really nailed on this. 144 hertz refresh rate. Wow. That's high. That's high. That's fucking awesome. And you know, I used to think that you really couldn't tell that much. And in truth, when you're looking around, not so much. But when you're doing stuff, actually you can. You actually can. So for a lot of games, like really fast games, I hear people who like Beat Saber really appreciate a high FPS. Well, here you go. And you know what? With Beat Saber, you'll actually be able to hit 144 hertz on reasonable hardware. That's nothing to shake a stick at. But here's the thing. Part of the reason you can get those crazy high numbers is the screen resolution is what I'd call very modest. It's not bad, but it's modest. It's not an amazing high resolution device. But the benefit of that is it's really not that hard to drive either, right? When you have like a really high-res headset like an AKX or a Vario Aero, then now you have to have a really powerful PC to really take advantage of that. Yeah. I have a fairly modest PC. It's a 3070, not even a TI. It's what I could get. But for the Index, that's perfectly fucking good. You'll be fine with something like that. Something quite modest, you're going to do just fine with it. You can probably get away with even less. There's a lot of tweaks you can do, and you can enjoy good high FPS with this. I typically ran this at 120. Part of a problem, though, is that you really can't just change that sort of handily per game. You can change it on the fly, sort of. It's a very comfortable headset. I've said that before. You can adjust this on the back. It's easy. You can just reach behind, tweak it, get it good. You can adjust the eye relief with this awesome little wheel here. Something I don't really see duplicated too often. I have no idea if something like the Reverb has it, but the Quest and the 8KX do not. And the 8KX in particular should. But there you go. The audio is famously good on the Index. It is good. These little speakers don't look like they're awesome, but they are. My only real complaint with this is that if you look, they stick out like ears. And cables and things can get caught in that, especially if you're using a pulley system. It's been known to happen, and it's irritating, and that design just traps the cable. It's not a huge issue, but I said I was going to be nitpicky, and that's a nitpick. That's annoyed me. I've had that tangle up. Now, let's really talk about what sucks about this headset. Really shitty things about it. This fucking cable is the worst thing ever. This cable will fucking ruin your gaming. It sucks. This cable is thick. It is heavy. And it is inflexible. It sucks. It really makes the VR experience on the Index a lot shittier than it ought to be. It is so bad. It is so thick, heavy, and inflexible, and it binds up instantly. It is so frustrating. This is a terrible cable, and I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. What were you thinking with this fucking cable? It's clearly too thick, heavy, and inflexible. You could have made this better by at least wrapping it in something smooth, even though it would make it a bit heavier, at least would make it less bindy. This is a shitty fucking cable design. It sucks. It is, however, incredibly fucking long. And that's actually a nice feature. Gotta give it that. This is a long ass cable. You can plug it in and walk to the neighbor's house. It's all right. But why is it so thick, heavy, and inflexible? It doesn't have to be. And you're saying, well, no. The 8KX has a cable that's quite long. Actually, is a higher data throughput and is half as thick, heavy, and is actually quite flexible. This cable stinks. If you're playing any room scale VR, this cable will be a constant reminder that you're playing a game. It'll pulls you right out. It sucks. You can improve that with a really good ceiling mounted pulley system, but it will still bind up every time you just like rotate and turn around. There's just no two ways about it. This cable really brings the Index experience down if you're doing room scale. If you're just sitting in your chair, I guess what's it matter? But if you like room scale, and I think that's the best way to enjoy most VR games, obviously not flight simulators or racing games or that sort of thing, obviously not. But if you like Blade and Sorcery or your Legendary Tales in particular, those two games encourage you to rotate because the enemies circle around you in that game a lot. It's good AI, but annoying for a cable. And you will turn to face them naturally because you're immersed in your video game having a great time. And your cable will bind up and be looped and getting twisted around your fucking head. And because it's so flexible and heavy, inflexible and heavy, you will immediately feel it tugging and tugging and tugging more and more. So you're going to have to stop playing your game. You're going to have to take off your headset and you're going to have to untwist it and fuck around with your pulley system. It is a bad gaming experience. I cannot describe to you how much I fucking hate this cable. It is such a piece of shit cable. Not only that, it's fragile and it fucking breaks. And if it does break, it's almost impossible to get a replacement. Valve, what the fuck were you thinking with this cable? At least make it, if you look, it kinks and binds up as you, I'm gonna get a shot at it. So you can see the cable twists and kinks. Here, really good shot there. Right there where it enters the headset. There, that stinks. That stinks. That's bad design. It's brainless design. What the fuck were you thinking? Okay. That is the worst part of the index. I just hate this cable so much. Ugh. Okay, there's a number of other things wrong with this headset. The lenses are shit. A lot of people say they're good. You're lying. They stink. Here's the problem. They doesn't mean two. There's double lens design here, right? This is I'm a 6 eyes when I use this thing. That sucks. Because the glare is really intense on this. You don't notice it super when you're actually playing a game most of the time, depending on the game. But it is very noticeable in a loading screen when it's all black, the company logo's up. You're like, wow, what a cool logo. I can't wait to play this game if it would ever fucking load up. And then the glare is just like, wow, that's a lot of fucking glare. It's less obvious in games, but it's there. And in dark games, it's there. And speaking of dark games, the blacks actually aren't very good on this headset. They're not the worst, but they're not great. These aren't great blacks. This is not a great dark game headset, unfortunately. But it's not a terrible one. You're not going to be like, oh, this game sucks because of my index. You're not going to be like that. Ever, honestly. The index is good enough for everything. Yeah, that is a real problem, though. That glare stinks. And it's way worse if you have glasses. You can mitigate this by getting some VR like prescription inserts that have anti-glare coating. And that reduces it, but doesn't eliminate it. There's no eliminating it. The glare is always going to be there, and it's always going to be a little bit annoying. Like I said, in some games, dark games, it will be quite irritating. But you actually get a pretty respectable FOV out of this headset. Mine measured in at 108. You know what? I'm going to check out what the vertical was. It was pretty damn good too. I got 99. I got 108 horizontal and 99 vertical. So yeah, that's not an outrageously high FOV. Okay, don't kid yourself, index owners. Your FOV is not world class. It just seems like it compared to the Quest 2. Trust me, you don't know what you're talking about if you think this is a great FOV. It's a decent FOV. And that's what you get, a decent FOV. Valve, of course, says it's 120. That's fucking bullshit. It's not. It's like 108. 108 is not bad, though. Because you have to remember that other headsets don't even come close, right? And FOV, I think, really matters. A lot of people say, no, it's all visual clarity. I think they're lying, and they're just trying to justify their purchase that they made. That's what I think is going on. If I'm being honest with you, if you've ever used a headset with a really wide FOV, like a Pimax, going back to something like this feels quite narrow. I get that, like, visual clarity is really important, but this isn't great for that either. Its resolution is not very good. It's very modest. It's not bad to the point where you're going to think, oh, these graphics are bad. Especially compared to the Quest 2. I'm going to get into that. It looks good. People talk about the screen door effect on this. I'm going to be honest, you see it if you look for it. But when you're playing your games, you're not going to notice any screen door effect. It's good enough you're not. Screen door effect really doesn't exist anymore as far as I'm concerned. Like, if you look for the screen door, you'll find it. But why would you be doing that? Then you're just being nitpicky and shitty. And that's kind of what I'm doing in this review, but only if it's really valid, right? That's just not a concern on this headset. You're not going to be bothered by the screen door. You will be pleased by the high FPS, decent FOV, and nice comfort. Like I said, it's heavy as shit, but the weight's reasonably well balanced. It's not bad. Yeah, this is a good headset. There is one issue. I find though that there's a lot of light leak on the bottom. This is not a good design. They didn't do that part right. I really don't understand why light leak is a thing that happens in VR headsets, and that there's never any sort of way to change that, adjust that, a little insert you could use to maybe thicken that up. They never do anything like that, and I don't understand why. If I was working for Valve when they were making this, I would have said, hey, we should do something about the light leak. And if they said no, I just would have started hitting them because they're wrong. Yeah, there are reliability problems that affect this. one of the cables stinks and it breaks, it binds up and it's shitty, it's hard to replace, it sucks. The lenses have been known to separate. These are just kind of crudely glued in. Not exactly, but there's been reports. I've had no problems with this. Then again, I have a cooling fan on this, don't I? But I think Thrill Seeker. I think it was Thrill Seeker. I'll double check and put a footnote if I'm wrong. But they've had these fog up on the inside of the lenses. What the fuck, Valve? What were they thinking with that design where that could possibly fucking happen? And if that happens, throw it out. Well, actually, don't throw it out. Bitch at Valve. Fix it. Second, for such an expensive device, only a 1-year warranty? Considering that this thing is kind of warty in terms of its reliability, I mean, you could own this for many years and it could be perfectly fine. But users have problems with it. I mean, just because you don't doesn't mean no one else does. So, and vice versa. So, yeah, that's not a good thing. Those are the shitty things about the Index. It does have pass-through cameras. Yay! Now here's a funny thing. They're actually pretty high quality. I know this because, funnily enough, when I plug this thing into Linux, a lot of the time OBS picks those up and displays these cameras to my screen. And you know what? They look good. You have a nice sharp picture. But when you use them in SteamVR, it looks like some kind of weird drug trip. It's good enough for you to stumble around and find your drink and have a quick sip. But it looks really gross and weird and distorted. Yet when you look through it, through like OBS, they actually look good. So I don't know. That's weird. But hey, their color. Ooh, you jealous, Questies? You should be. Actually, you shouldn't. Because they're not as cool to access. You have to go to the menu and then you can push a little button. These are all disabled by default. I don't know why. But anyway, and then you can see the pass-through, and that's useful. Like I said, useful for just orientating yourself if you have to, getting a quick drink. That's a nice feature. Not a killer feature or anything, though. It's not good enough for any sort of actual AR, not even remotely good enough. They're there. They're just kind of useless. Like, if this didn't have the cameras on the front, I don't think you'd really notice too much outside of you stopping to go get your drink. That's it. That's what they're useful for. That and quickly orientating yourself, right? Okay, that's legit. Then you don't have to pull up the headset. If you're wondering, oh, could I just use these to go and untangle my cable? No. The depth perception is atrociously bad. No way. I've tried it. You're just swatting in the air wondering why you're not touching the cable that's clearly in front of you. No, they're not good for that. So yeah, I think that's enough to say this is a sturdy headset, but I wouldn't even remotely say it's Quest 2 durable, which we'll get into. But as long as you're not abusing this should be fine. It's very adjustable, very customizable, quite comfortable despite its weight. Eventually, if you're gaming long enough, this will feel heavy. But that's the price to pay for what is probably the most comfort options of any headset that I've seen. I have no idea what the G2 is like for that. This is a good headset. This was my first headset, and it was a good purchase. I like this headset. Yeah. If you have an Index, you should be pleased about it. But there's no getting around the fact that its modest resolution is starting to feel dated, right? That's just the truth. It's kind of low res these days, and you notice more in some games than others, that's for sure. You know, if you're like a flight simmer where you really want to be those gauges and stuff, this is maybe not a good headset for you. If you require precision, sort of high resolution stuff to read small, fine details, pass on the Index. It's no good for it. It's just not sharp enough. But if you're just shooting guys or stabbing people in Blade and Sorcery, this is great, right? That's more than enough for this. And you get that nice high FPS, which really is nice. For fast motion, 120 or 144 is better than 90. It's not what I would call something that's should really be like a central priority, not for most gamers, but nonetheless. But let's move on. A nice thing about this is it uses outside-in tracking, base stations. That's a mixed bag, because the nice thing about the Quest 2 is it doesn't. But you get what I mean, right? There's pros and cons to it. Some nice pros to the base stations is that you can use things like Vive trackers or Tundra trackers, right? If you went with Slime VR like me, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's kind of a nice feature, and you can't beat the accuracy of the Steam VR trackers. So I'm not really going to talk more about the trackers outside of that. They're expensive, they're rare, they're precious. I have two. I would have loved a third. That would cost me about 200 Canadian dollars plus taxes. But Valve never has any in stock, ever, right? You can get the ones from HTC where they've jacked up the price. It's a nuisance to get that third one. But you don't need the third one. The third one's definitely in the luxury category, and the fourth is right out. It'll make no difference. If you can get three, go for three. But if you only have two, you're probably not going to notice. The Knuckles. I love the Knuckles controllers. Oh yes. These are so much better than the crappy Oculus design. That ring shit, some people like them. I hate them. What's great about these controllers is the grip sensor. What's also annoying about them is the grip sensor. Yeah, let me tell you, that's a huge net positive, but there's problems with it. A nice thing is out of the box, you just put it in your hand, and there you go, right? You're gaming. You don't sit there like this in real life as you're walking around doing stuff, right? I mean, if you're holding something at the time, you are. But if you're just walking around, just sheath your sword, you're walking around, why would you still be gripping something? Well, with these kind of controllers, you're not. But these, it's very natural to grab something by grabbing it, right? That's what the Index masters. There's the finger tracking shit. I'm going to be honest with you. It's fun in VR chat. That's where it's kind of good. But there's no actual video game use for that, is there? Like, no. You can give a zombie the middle finger, but it doesn't do anything, right? That's just you screwing around. It can add to immersion. Fair enough. Fair enough. But really, though, like, is it that big a difference? Probably not. Probably not. You know. But nonetheless, it can do it. It can do per finger tracking. I just don't consider it that interesting a feature. It's a nice minor immersion feature. It's the grip that I really like. That you just reach out, grab something, just like you would in real life. You do it in the game with your controller. That is great for immersion. The trigger is good. It's sensitive, and then nice click. I like that. Maybe some people don't, but I like to know when I've clicked in. You have A and B, a trackpad that is never used really by anything, unfortunately, because it's actually pretty great. I love the trackpad on this, and if I ever got a chance to use it, I'd probably love it even more. And the joystick, which I think is perfectly fine. Yeah, I think it's perfectly good. It's really not that different than the ones on the Quest 2. I consider them basically identical. Totally functional. The menu button is a bit of an issue, though. It's way too far down. It should have been up top. Gabe has a giant head and tiny hands based on this design. That's what I'm getting. It's reasonably adjustable, but it's actually not adjustable enough. If your hands are quite large, if you're a large person, I'm unfortunately a large person, and I'm freakishly tall and my hands are big. This controller is a little tight, which means like I'm just at the edge where I maybe could use the boosters, which Valve doesn't make. You have to get 3D printed. That's lame. What the shit? Why? Like, why didn't they just... I feel like they really should have tested this more. And it was just everybody who works at Index got tiny hands? Is that it? How did they let that happen? I don't know. And if it was a potential issue, why didn't they just ship it with a little booster? Why? What were they thinking? This outer ring is okay, but here's some really nitpicky shit. I shoot guns in real life. I love guns. And here's the thing that really annoys the shit out of me. These controllers are kind of large. And they're a weird shape that circles around. Now you're not going to see that. And that's sort of the issue. Say you're two-handing a handgun. Right? Like what? You have to... That's no good. You can't do that. Right? Like you're, that's not good. That sucks. The best you can sort of do is hook this heel under here a little bit. That's not good. That's not good. That said, the ring thingies or whatever you want to call that, a crescent, is on the outside rather than the top encircling it. So you won't likely bang them together. That's nice. I know that pistol thing sounds nitpicky. I realize it, but if you're shooting handgun games, I find it actually legitimately annoying because I don't really have a way to actually physically two-hand, and the reason you physically two-hand a handgun is to get better stability. And in VR, better stability in real life translates to the game, right? And you cannot easily do that with these controllers, and that is a serious negative. What do you think I'm doing in VR? If I'm not stabbing someone, I'm shooting someone. Two-handed weapons is not an issue, but you use a lot of handguns in VR games, right? And because of that, I find that a constant irritant. And this isn't really how you hold a handgun. Like if you've never held a handgun, it's a lot nicer to hold than one of these. This is awkward and shitty. There has been reliability issues with these. These are actually my second set. My first set immediately broke. The little part here, we adjust the sort of angle of this, that broke on them. Valve just warranted them right away. It really wasn't an issue. The joysticks have been known. I've had no issues myself. Lots of people haven't had issues, but they've been known to get drift pretty badly. That's a problem because you've only got a 1-year warranty. That stinks. If there's problems with your joysticks getting out of drift, hope it happens in the first year and then not again until you replace it. That stinks. This is also going to seem incredibly minor and bitchy, but it does irritate me. A and B buttons, A and B buttons. Why are they the same? Then you have to do awkward things like left A and right A. Why not just call these X and Y? Right? Why not? Now I'd say press right B, like our tooltip, instead of just press X. It seems more obvious. That's kind of how it's done. Like for controllers for a while now, it's pretty standard, right? You change but they just went A and B on both of them. I find that awkward. Especially because I'm dyslexic and I can't really tell what left and right fucking mean anyway. If you didn't know that about dyslexics, we have no idea what left and right means. Like I get it conceptually, but we're not good at being handed, and I find that very irritating. Just call it X. Anyway, I know that's nitpicky and minor, but still, that's something I would have caught. Been like, no, you should rename the buttons. Z and Y, whatever. Anything. Don't label them the same. They're not the same button. The actual triggers have been known to be a bit fragile. I don't think these would break through regular usage, but if you were to bump them against something at a wrong angle, I've seen a lot of pictures of those triggers being broken. Careful with that. These are not very durable controllers. This outer thing here is actually rugged as shit. You can smack the shit out of stuff with this. You could take this into a fight and just bash the shit out of someone. They'd be fine, but your trigger would probably break. Yeah. These have a nice internal battery that charges very quickly and has hours of gameplay in them. That's good. Weirdly, Valve engineers spent quite some time perfecting a way to make USB-C a fucking pain in the ass. These are really annoying to plug in. Every other USB, you just ram the cable in and you're off to the races. This you have to sit there and fuck with and fiddle with it. How the fuck did they fuck that up? How the fuck do you fuck up a USB-C? What were they thinking? Why didn't they just make this a regular, easy-to-use USB-C? Every fucking time you have to... Right? It's annoying. Why did they fucking do that? Other than that, these are great controllers. These are my favorite VR controllers, despite their fucking ports. I think that's what I'm going to say about the Index controllers, and probably just leave it there. That's where I'm going to leave my Index review, and say, This is a fantastically good headset, but in this day and age, in 2021, coming on 2022, it is too expensive for that modest screen resolution and that very mediocre warranty, even though the service from Steam is pretty good, especially compared to Oculus support, which doesn't really have any. I'd say the index is still fine. If you have a powerful graphics card, then you just run at a high refresh rate and you'll still benefit from that despite the modest graphics. But the graphics are modest and cranking up the detail isn't going to do miracles, you know? And that is a serious issue with it. But other than that, I'd say the index is a pretty solid bit of kit. If you're thinking about getting one, it's not a bad choice. Yeah. It's either that or the Reverb G2. So take a look at that. I can't help you with the Reverb. There's reviews online. Just make sure that they're being honest about its shortcomings, because there's plenty on the Reverb G2 as well. Okay? I don't want to speak authoritatively about the Reverb G2, not having one, but I know that it is not all peaches and cream on that camp either. All these headsets have problems. All of them have warts. You have to make sure that these are warts that you can live with, because you're getting warts. All right? Just hope it's not on your nose or something, right? I'll say this real quick. The Index is the gold standard PCVR headset for a reason. Is that even though it gets things wrong, it doesn't get anything wrong enough that it would make you hate this headset. The cable stinks, you will hate the cable, but you will not hate the headset. You will not hate your gaming experience with this. You will have a good time with your Index. You will like your Index. It is a good headset. It is an excellent headset, but it is an old middle of 2019 design, and it shows that. It was a very good design for the middle of 2019, but nonetheless, in VR years, that was 100 years ago. It's an ancient headset. The fact that it's still good and still selling today and still has its fanboys all over fucking Reddit shows that this is a good headset. It is the gold standard for a reason. It doesn't get anything wrong enough. And it gets enough things right that you're going to have a good time with it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Index. But in 2021, that price should have came down a lot, and it's come down zero. That warranty should have been at least 2 years for that price tag, and how quirky the device can be in terms of its longevity. I've had no problems with the headset itself, but other people have, and enough that it's a fairly regular thing to read about. So be aware of that. Okay, an extra thing about the controllers I thought I should mention, because it is actually a serious issue with them. So it's really not the issue with the controllers. It's because I had mentioned that it's not very flexible regarding hand sizes. A problem is that affects the grip sensor quite a bit. So I find that probably 60% of games, I have to go into the controller options and change the grip sensitivity functions. Once you get it dialed in, you sort of know what your grip settings are, not a problem. But most games, you're going to have to go in and tweak your grip settings to get a comfortable play experience. That's a pain in the ass that the simple button on the Quest 2 does not suffer from. So I'll give it that. But that is a real nuisance. And it's also really annoying to edit your controller bindings in-game. The interface while you're in VR is frustrating as shit to use. It doesn't work right. It doesn't seem to want to register your clicks. You have to get right up to it virtually on the controller. It's just annoying as shit. Definitely try to tweak your settings on the desktop mode rather than do it in game. But if you forgot and you just want to do it real quick, well, you're not going to do it real quick. You're going to be annoyed by it. But that is a problem with the grip sensors, is that you probably are going to have to tweak it for every fucking game you play. That is annoying. But you only really have to do it once. So is it that annoying? Not really. But it is something I should bring up, that the grip sensor is finicky until you get it set to just right. Generally speaking, I find the settings to be pretty much universal. So once I find the sort of key values I like for the grip sensitivity and grip release and all that, I can just switch that over to any game. So when you install a new game, go to your grip settings and then just tweak it away and it'll be fine. But it is an extra step you got to do with these controllers. There you go. That's the Index. Let's move on to the Quest 2.